Have you ever dreamed of climbing Africa's tallest mountain? Mount Kilimanjaro is there for all of us, if we want to tackle it. A lot of people go. Some people don't make it. Derek Watts didn't make it, but don't talk about it. Bonolo Sekhukhune did make it, and she was part of an elective of 15 women who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Symbolic, I suppose, for the corporate world.
Definitely, I think so too. I mean, it was a trip with 15 women, as you've mentioned already, that the trip was more around getting women to support each other to climb a mountain. I think quite symbolic of the corporate world and us being able to achieve certain things as women and I think delivering the impossible at times, and that was pretty much what it was.
Was it voluntary, or was it a mean part of GIBS which says you shall not get your MBA until you have climbed this mountain?
No, it was very voluntary, and quite excited to actually be nominated to go on the trip. Before the trip, I actually had decided that either I was going to do the MBA or climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and was quite fortunate to actually achieve both in 1 year.
So 15 women get together, you're climbing this mountain. Obviously, it's the first couple of days are fairly easy through the foothills, but things become difficult as you get near the peak. And again, it's an allegory, I suppose, for the corporate world. You get into middle management. Lots of women get into middle management. Some women become general managers. But when you look at boardrooms, not only here, but around the world, very few women seem to be able to crack that glass ceiling.
It's actually a good depiction of actually the night before. So you hit 12 o'clock and it's about 8 hours. Combination between the last 2 days is about 15 hours of walking. And you literally are at a point where you can't breathe and you're trying to push yourself. And there's a term we learned, pole pole, which is slowly. And it is about just literally that 1 minute after the other, trying to make it, having the women around you supporting you, knowing that you're all together. You can't see where the finish line is because it's pitch black, dark at night, and you're waiting for that 6 o'clock. And I think you're right, it is one of those things where it's comfortable to reach the bottom of the summit, but reaching it in the middle of the night, trying to push through, is quite a symbolic depiction of what corporate is, and as well as what the night was about. You had yourselves, you had the amazing guides that helped us through the night, and it is quite hard to actually push through, and knowing that you weren't alone and you had people around you going at the same pace as you, encouraging you to go through, is actually quite a nice feeling to know that you made it, but you didn't make it alone. You made it with other women. It was quite inspiring to get to the first summit, and which is Gilman's Point at sunbreak or at sunrise, right?
But you get there, and you've had this great achievement. There's a sense of achievement. Does it give you that sense that actually you can do anything that you really want to? Is it that empowering?
Without a doubt, because literally when you are heading with about 5 minutes breaks, no more sitting leisurely, sitting at about 10 minutes, having a lunch bar, and carrying on. It's literally 5 minute breaks. You can't stop shorter than that because it is cold. It is tiring. You've got layers of gear, and within that 5 minutes it's a pee break, food, and a bit of a stop, and you have to carry on. So when you're sitting in those conditions and you're not sure whether you're all still together, are people going down, are people coming up, there's noises, you can't see where you're going through, and the idea of being able to achieve it through those conditions for 8 hours of just pure cold, you kind of feel that there's nothing else that actually can stop you.
A lot of people who do the MBA talk about the bonds that the syndicate structure creates. There's some people you're never going to like. It's a bit like the workplace. Some colleagues you just don't like. You're never going to go to their homes. You're never going to talk to them really. But in the syndicate space, you make strong connections. In the mountain climbing space, it's a syndicate on steroids, I suspect.
Without a doubt. I mean, luckily for me, I hadn't met any of the other women because they're all coming from RSM. But within minutes, you are connecting, and about within 2-3 days of living in the same tents, having washi together, eating together for breakfast, lunch, and supper, you kind of create bonds that are inseparable. I mean, I was fortunate as well enough to actually have women from across the world, not just from Netherlands, and the bonds that I've created are unbelievable.
What's the best thing you learn about yourself? At 5 to 5 on that morning, there's just 1 hour to go. It's bitterly cold. It's still pitch dark. You don't know where the summit is. You think you'll get there in the next hour, but you can't breathe. You're putting one foot in front of the other. At that point, what's the most important thing?
Best important thing to learn is, should I carry on or should I stop? And funny enough, that is the hardest decision to make, because you're a group of 17 women and your achievement is not your achievement alone. And if you're not feeling well, the ability to say enough is enough and I have to go down for the better for the better of the whole team. It's very hard because you actually have summit fever that you cannot believe, and just keeping a conscious decision of it's not just about me, but it's about the group as well, and I need to make sure that the group makes it and not just me. It's quite hard when you're cold and you're feeling weak and you're not sure whether you can make that extra hour or it's time to turn back. Luckily, I didn't have to turn back, but it is the hardest decision that you have to make, knowing when to stop or when to carry on for the better of a team. Now, it's quite hard.
A lot of people who do Kilimanjaro, it's the lowest of the 7 summits. It's supposedly the easiest of the 7 summits. Get bitten by a mountain bug that actually makes them go a little bit dilly. Did it bite you?
It did.
Do you want to climb all 7?
I do want to climb all 7. I mean, I was fortunate to spend quite a bit of time with Rebecca Stevens and listening to her story.
She's the first UK woman to the top of Kilimanjaro?
Not first woman to the top of Mount Everest.
I beg your pardon.
First one to Mount Everest, and she's climbed all 7. And spending time with her and just getting a sense of what it takes to get up there, the type of bonds you create with people, what pushes you to carry on and not carry on in certain times. And the reminder she told us on the first day about summit fever, where I thought, whatever, it's just... It's just a thought, but, we don't all get that. And actually getting to that morning and having summit fever and having to be conscious of that, as well as just being responsible in the same breath without much oxygen in your body, was quite an emotional turmoil, because you weren't completely sane but had to be sane as you're going through and making decisions on the go, and having to remain quite pole throughout this whole night. Some moments you want to rush, but you can't.
So pole, you got washi, you've learned an entire new vocabulary as well. It wasn't just about challenging you physically, it was learning about a whole new language. Bonolo Sekhukhune, thank you so much for coming in and for telling us all about the climbing a mountain, but it's more about climbing than climbing a mountain. It's all about pushing yourself to the limits, understanding what you can do, and understanding what your personal limits are. Some big lessons coming through from climbing Kilimanjaro.